Thanks everyone for attending the Lean Logistics webinar today. My name is Scott Meyer and I'll be the moderator for today's webinar. Today's topic is supply chain management and discussing how critical visibility really is. Supply chains today are becoming more and more complex as shippers try to find the right balance of cost, service, and technology. For many, visibility into the supply chain is a constant need since data on compliance and financial performance, basic tendering results, become the test of a healthy supply chain. If you've been on some of our other webinars, you know that we like bringing together experts on the topics we discuss. So today we brought together two supply chain experts from Ashley Furniture and Lean Logistics to tackle the visibility equation for supply chains. At any time, if you have questions you'd like to ask our panel, you can type those into the GoToWebinar client on the right side, and you can also follow the discussion on Twitter under the hashtag #CriticalVisibility. To start off, I'd like to introduce our panel. As Vice President of Ashley Furniture Industries, John Kirshner oversees the supply chain planning and execution systems throughout the company's global operations. This includes enhancement, management, and support of diverse systems across the globe. Systems include distribution requirements planning, store replenishment, HR systems, corporate sales, logistics, and distribution. And then Jason Nurmi, Vice President of Technology Services at Lean Logistics, is responsible for all aspects of customer technology implementation, post-implementation, tactical customer support, and client services. Leveraging his 18 years of experience in the manufacturing, warehousing, and transportation industries, his leadership at Lean Logistics has enabled the technology service teams to develop proven processes and efficiencies for our clients. So with that, I'd like to open up the floor and hand it over to Jason to start off the webinar.
Thank you, Scott. Let me give you first a brief introduction myself. I've been with Lean Logistics now for over 9 years, and I've played multiple roles in Lean Logistics, including implementation, firsthand seeing the needs of the supply chain in our customer base. And as far as Lean Logistics, we were founded in 1999 and are an industry-leading global provider of TMS and services. Since we've been founded, we've grown to over 120 customers that encompass a network of more than $7 billion in freight represented in more than 35 countries. Lean Logistics, TMS and services, we support a wide range of industry verticals, including oil and gas, CPG, food and beverage, and retail, to name a few. Ashley Furniture has been a partner of Lean Logistics since 2013 and is an extremely strategic partner working closely with Lean Logistics in many facets. I'd like to welcome John Kirshner. And John, could you please take a few minutes to give us some insight into your organization, your network, and your market presence?
Sure. Thanks, Jason. Ashley Furniture is the largest furniture manufacturer and retailer in the world. Our business is pretty clearly segmented along, I guess, two main aspects. The first is what we characterize as the manufacturing side of our business, or the wholesale side. In that particular side of our business, we manufacture and distribute to our wholesale customers, being retailers, the retailers being ourselves and our home stores, as well as several thousand other major retail customers. We distribute to them out of 5 major facilities domestically and 2 internationally. And then the second tier of our distribution network is the retail side. That's probably where most folks have familiarization with Ashley Furniture, is that that second tier retail distribution is done through regional distribution centers that manage the last mile delivered to the consumer. As you can imagine, we make furniture, so we're a highly cube-driven business. That translates into literally thousands of loads per month, and the commensurate freight spend that's fairly equally divisible between a common carrier spend and a fleet-based spend.
Thanks, John. With the breadth and depth of Ashley's footprint in both the domestic and international, as well as the sheer number of volumes, obviously in your network, visibility is a high importance. Which brings up the point of our conversation today. Visibility is a very high-profile topic today in our supply chain and transportation networks. Visibility is often categorized, in my opinion, into 2 main focal points. The first being transactional or executional visibility. This type of visibility provides the ability to make proactive decisions, impacting supply chain and transportation. This visibility also improves decision-making to increase utilization, recover from potential service failures, or maybe just to support communication more efficiently between your customers and from your suppliers. I think the second aspect of visibility is how it relates to costing visibility. One aspect of this is actual versus budget, which enables analytics. And I think a second area is that it supports the development of sound strategies based on data-driven reaction to market changes. John, organizations such as yours strive to be a term nowadays, shipper of choice. And with that comes the desire to develop strong relationships with their carriers, customers, and suppliers. I think that visibility into your supply chain and see what's impacting your strategy are extremely important today. Do you have any specific points to share in regard to visibility that impacts your strategy and execution?
Well, I guess, Jason, when you look at our spend, it's really, I guess, spread across four main aspects. We have our inbound spend, which closely, I guess, relates to our backhauls. And then we have our transfers across multiple warehouses. We don't make the same thing in the same places. And then we have our outbound billables. Each one of them have their own unique challenges in terms of visibility. From an inbound perspective, I would say that exposing our orders to our supply base and getting that near real-time information back from them in terms of rate of ship is really kind of key. We do both discrete and blanket purchase orders out to our supply base for live, kind of large commodity-based type products such as wood, foam, and so on. And getting that near real-time visibility back from our supply base in terms of the timeline of the availability of that merchandise and the matching timeline, I guess, for our drivers to pick that up is really key to us. Make sure that we sequence our manufacturing accordingly. Backhauls on the fleet is also a big deal to us. We've got dedicated lanes with inbounds from suppliers back, kind of with DC domicile drivers. That particular process of providing visibility inside of the TMS has been great in terms of reducing total empty miles. But then we've also been working through contractual and brokered backhaul opportunities and allowing our TMS to have visibility to those. And not only has that reduced our empty miles, but it's also increased our revenue opportunities for the available black trucks we have out there on the road right now. And then finally, I would say from a transfers perspective, visibility to the prioritization of transfers is really key to us. We have a number of different attributes that drive the prioritization of our transfers. And given the fact that we don't make the same thing in every geographic area, we need to make good decisions in terms of where that inventory lands to make sure that we service our customers in that geographic location serviced by the outlying DCs. As soon as our WMS load closes, means fills a truck with a transfer, it's issued to Lean. And then within that issue process, we've got a prioritization that helps us determine the mode. So not only from a visibility perspective, but also from a cost savings perspective, that's key. Because when we apply our routing guides, if we know that we've got a load lead time greater to or equal than 5 days, we oftentimes can take advantage of other modes such as intermodal. If it's going to be something less than that, where we're going to have to make sure to use an over-the-road truck, we will certainly expedite it, prioritize it, and make sure that we've got an over-the-road truck available to move that freight. So, it's managing the customer service obligation within cost parameters, and that visibility is really key to us. I guess finally, too, also is compliance. I mean, carrier performance is important. I think in today's market, though, you have to realize that you're operating in a constrained capacity market, and any type of compliance data that you share with your carrier should be treated as a coaching tool, not necessarily as a stick.
Yeah, thanks, John. Great examples from the operational and executional transactional layers of visibility needed into the network to be successful. In regard to the second point, I talked about visibility and the costs. In your supply chain, do you have any specific examples to share with us relating to the importance of the cost visibility?
We do. Yeah, we keep track for all of our freight moves. We have both a payable and a billable side in terms of the rating structures associated with those moves, so we're keeping track of internal and external costs associated with moving freight. That visibility gives us pretty clear indication in terms of what I guess I would characterize as our loss leader lanes, where there's opportunities where maybe we are operating as a fleet or we're operating on a common carrier basis, and there may be opportunities to change that strategy based upon the current cost basis. So that's absolutely key for us to make sure that we're maintaining our costs and our margins associated with those moves. Another aspect, I guess, in terms of keeping track of that billable invoicing side is that when we do backhauls and when we do contractual moves on behalf of others, we've got full visibility to the P&L associated with every freight move that we do on behalf of ourselves and our third-party customers. So that the automatic visibility of billable invoicing and the visibility of the results from that is key. And that really helps us to clearly identify and manage the lanes where other alternatives may exist. From a financial discrepancy perspective, I would say that that's probably the single biggest ROI item that we have in terms of our current deployment of the Lean Logistics solution. We create literally thousands of freight bills monthly that were previously manually paid, and I would say that they were sometimes audited. The new processes that we have in place give us instant visibility to the expected versus the actual, and in situations where there's exact matches, it goes to an automated payment. That has significantly reduced the manual intervention necessary, and from an ROI perspective, it's really helped us move the needle.
Great. Those are actually great examples of visibility costs, and I'm sure that a lot of other customers out there share very similar issues, and I'd actually like to go to our audience on those points. At this point, we're going to put a poll up on your screen. So in your webinar client, you'll see a question pop up. We'd like to find out your opinion on our topics today. John and I mentioned a number of areas where visibility in the supply chain is very important, and we'd like to ask the audience the same thing. Where is there a visibility issue in your supply chain? John and I have many years of experience building better supply chains with deep visibility, but our audience, you, really is the best test of substantiating our perspective into the visibility issues that are impacting the marketplace today. At the end of the webinar, we'll come back to this poll and we'll look at the responses of our audience. We'll leave that poll up for a few moments so as we see that the people are responding. So thank you for that input. And at this point, let's get back to our presentation. Transition now into more of the solution mode. We've heard about the sort of the visibility needs, or those that impact business, and specifically from John and his examples. But now I'd like to kind of move into more the solutions mode. Lean Logistics understands that visibility is a critical component across our customer supply chains and our verticals. Often our approach delivers multi-layer planning, execution, and real-time tracking tools, providing operational and analytical reporting visibility. Features are built into our system, into the order and load plan workflow, which allow for identification and categorization of very specific and special visibility needs. We have tools such as Dispatch Console and the Supply Chain Monitor, which are very user and geographically configurable to provide you very detailed and specific visibility into your supply chain. John, as you've looked into the deployment of Lean Logistics and the Lean TMS solution, can you provide some insight into specific aspects in TMS where those tools have provided visibility to better manage your business?
Yeah, I guess, Jason, what I'll do is I'll start with the why. Retail buying patterns are changing a lot, regardless of what you're buying, including furniture, and a lot more people are going to the internet and going to e-commerce as the mechanism to buy. And what that does is it removes actually furniture from the retailer. We become kind of the immediate touch point with the consumer. So we have to be able to react very quickly in terms of what we're manufacturing and distributing to make sure that we're meeting that customer service obligation to a relatively high expectation end consumer. So that means that from an inbound perspective, we've got to get everything dialed in exactly right to make sure that, number one, we're taking advantage of postponement strategies in our manufacturing side, but then within those postponement strategies, making sure that we have the right raw materials to complement what we've got set aside in standardized sub-assemblies. That being said, the SIM portal, which is kind of the web portal that's exposed through Lean Logistics out to our supply base, gives us that near real-time ability to not only identify the right product, but identify the right trailer for our drivers to pick up. We're talking about high cube type raw materials where these POs and PO lines can span tens of trailers. And for our supply base to come back and tell us not only the specific line quantity, but the specific trailer that the driver should be picking up to sequence it with our just-in-time manufacturing processes is really key. Another area where TMS specifically provides us some key visibility is managing our drop trailers. We have this concept of warehouse availability, which is really when the material is loaded, and then departure dates. And there's typically hours or days difference between when those trailers become available and when the departure dates have to actually be executed by our fleet or common carrier base. And having that visibility and being able to manage and reduce the, I'll call it the latency between warehouse availability and departure dates to make sure that we keep our empty trailer pool available is really key for us. Another area I would point out is the dispatch console. It's a very nice tool built inside the Lean Logistics technology that allows, kind of a one-pass glance our operators within Ashley Distribution Services to see where they stand for today's loads in terms of coverage. It's something that's up virtually all the time, and I know that our people take full advantage of it. And we certainly have taken advantage of the BI reporting tools that are available inside of Lean as well. The full visibility to carrier spend versus fleet spend, profit and loss associated with both aspects, specifically I guess in that case of the fleet. But we've taken a number of those BI reports and published them out to a SharePoint site so that everybody inside the organization can have access to those, and those are refreshed on a timely basis so that the data is accurate and fresh. And I would say that, I talked a little bit earlier though, but prioritization of transfers for us has really become a key in terms of, not only the visibility to the days on hand of inventory by site and trying to drive that allocation across all the sites, but trying to make sure that in a geographically dispersed sales environment that we're making sure that the right product is in the right place at the right time. And we can do that by providing the visibility to the prioritization, and we can take the cost out of it to make sure that we're getting it there not only at the right time, but at the right cost to meet the consumer need. That's really key for us.
All excellent points. John, when you're looking at the deployment of the dispatch console, the visibility into your carrier spend versus your fleet spend, your example of your ability to prioritize your transfers, do you believe that you gain a significant competitive advantage over your transportation needs with these tools?
I do. I think that it allows us to make not only tactical decisions, but tactical decisions that are consistent with our strategy.
We understand implementing a TMS such as Lean, was a significant undertaking at Ashley Furniture. You had integration into multiple systems, complexity of both inbound and outbound process freight, standardization of multiple process flows within your organization. With any project, we always feel that reflecting back on that project, evaluating key milestones, success, and opportunities is a key opportunity. Two call-outs from my experience in implementation, ensuring that projects are successful, our IT resources and project slotting, as well as benchmarking your current business metrics and KPI priority and engagement. In regards to the first point, IT resources and project support, in a competitive market today, costs are often very key drivers on projects, and with tight budgets, often we find that this is a condition that often causes competing priorities with resources on projects, and it's often overlooked just how critical it is a role that IT plays in the success of a project. In your organization, did you identify the IT resources and project support as a potential constraint, and was your success in your implementation due in part to identification of this and prioritization of this key role?
Yeah, absolutely. I think every organization deals with a similar issue that there's typically more opportunities out in front of a company than there are IT resources to get them done. we identified early on that we were going to need to have fairly heavy IT involvement. Organizationally, the project management aspects of our business come from the IT side, and then obviously we were going to have a reliance on technical resources to make sure that the integration between all of the associated systems that need to be updated was going to be executed by the IT organization. The thing I would say that integration absolutely is key. You need to have your systems synchronized, and I think it's even more important in our environment because we're oftentimes dealing with what I would characterize as end consumer volatility, and there's a lot of associated changes to our orders, and being able to in near real time make sure that we synchronize our systems so that our warehouse systems, our yard systems, our fleet system, and our TMS system all know what those demands are from our consumer base, and that we can keep them updated and refreshed in near real time up to the point where we have to say the truck's gone. I would say that also, on top of that integration being key is that invest in EDI where possible to automate processes, both from a trading partner perspective as well as from a carrier perspective. What we found is that in situations where we can automate those processes and take advantage of what's already a back office function inside of our trading partners, it really helps both from a training perspective as well as from a day-to-day business relationship perspective. So I would say invest heavily in EDI where possible.
Also ensures data accuracy in the process as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah, very much so.
The second point that we had called out is in relation to benchmarking. And from our experience, when you are approaching a project, having a good benchmark or a handle on your current metrics and KPIs are critical to ensuring a successful project. In regards to it, it provides you the ability to measure the success after a project is instituted. Some examples of key metrics that we found in our customer base and others is cost per mile, pound per cube, trailer utilization, mode utilization either by percent or by dollar, accessorials as a percentage of load cost, loads per planner. John, in your view, how critical was establishing a solid baseline in measuring the success and impact of your project?
I think it's absolutely critical. The only way that you can substantiate the investment is knowing where you started so that you can see where you landed. Organizationally, we, given the nature of our products, cube is very important. So we look at, the cost per cube moved is one of our KPIs that we watch very closely. But there's a number of other KPIs that, in terms of efficiency and process continuity that we watch, and through the investment in TMS, you have to make sure that that investment comes with an associated return, and we do keep an eye on all that.
And John, finally, from your perspective here, as we're starting to get into the close here, are there any other key call-outs from your experience that you would emphasize for a company or anybody listening here today to that they should consider when they're preparing to undertake an implementation of a project and ensure success?
Yeah, I would say that in any type of complex supply chain project, and these are big projects, I think it's important to build end users into the process early and often. You can apply systemic approaches to standardize a lot of business processes and operating principles, but oftentimes there's a lot of exceptions that can't necessarily have a systemic solution. And by getting users involved early, you can identify those exception conditions early and build SOPs around them to make sure that it's not going to impact your ability to roll out the solution. I guess another key call out I would say in terms of lessons learned and things to do next is, if carriers and vendors can do EDI, take advantage of that early and often. I just want to reiterate that point. It improves compliance, improves the partner relationship, and the automation can, number one, remove the manual tedious processes off of your trading partners, but also makes the data more accurate.
John, first off, I want to thank you for sharing your experiences regarding visibility, your experiences with Lean Logistics and your implementation and some of your best practices or results. The transparency in which we work with our customers, such as yourself, and Ashley Furniture are extremely important to us to continually improve our product and our processes. Today we discussed the visibility is a key driver in our supply chains. Visibility at multiple levels is critical for successful execution and management of our supply chain strategies. Deploying a leading platform such as Lean TMS can provide you with a sound basis for your strategy. Being successful is about planning, executing, the right tools, and visibility, and they all play critical components at all levels.
Okay. Thanks, Jason and John, for that. As we start shifting into kind of the Q&A portion of this, we'd actually like to go back to our poll real quick, and we're going to display that up on the screen for you to look back at some of your responses there. And as we look at this, and we look at when we said, okay, what was most important? What are you lacking in visibility in your supply chain? The interesting thing is that there's kind of a dead heat between a couple different elements. So you can see that inbound is definitely something that a lot of the attendees are looking for more visibility on track and trace and metrics and analytics. So we all know in supply chains how critical visibility really is, and how to build that better supply chain. You really need visibility into that. So some of the things that we've been talking about today have definitely resonated with our audience today. With that, I think we'll move into our Q&A portion of the presentation. Again, if you have questions for our panelists and you wanted to ask that, you can go ahead and put that in the chat session, chat section of the GoToWebinar client, and we will get to as many as we can with the time we've got allowed here. Let me go. The first question we have here, it says, Jason mentioned benchmarking as one of the lessons learned. Since my supply chain is unique, I'm challenged with understanding exactly who and what I should be benchmarking against. So, Jason, do you want to respond first to that, and then we'll get John's input as well?
Sure. I think first and foremost you have to benchmark in your current process. Where do you currently stand in your performance or your metrics? That establishes a foundation in which you can then undertake or start any project. And then secondly, it's what you want to measure a benchmark against as success. And that can be done either to a goal you set yourself or with the help of some of our analytics. For example, we could compare what the marketplace or peers in the industry are doing in performance levels to give you a gauge on what would be considered successful.
Okay. John, do you want to go ahead and respond to that?
Well, I think Jason's spot on. I mean, I think you have to start with the end in mind. So you have to establish, what KPIs matter to you organizationally. What are those dependent measures on which you're going to really kind of base your ROI on. And then once you've established those, get a good baseline of it, and then track that over defined intervals. One of the things that we like to take advantage of is, I'll call it market-corrected indices. There are a number of different indices out there, including LEANDEX, that we watch and try to compare ourselves against our peers. That being said, you have to make sure that those indices are corrected for the time period. So you have to take into consideration not only where you started, but the duration of time from when you started to where you go back and look in your rearview mirror and make sure that you have market corrections, because obviously there's a lot of volatility in terms of the cost basis and fuel associated with transportation these days.
Okay. We got time for just one more question, and I personally really like this one. So IT resources aren't readily available to my department, which is why we run things manually. So how do you make that sale to IT for something like this? John, you want to take a crack at that one?
Wow, that rings true. I guess there's a couple of different things you can do. Number one is you can attempt to mitigate IT involvement. You can't necessarily eliminate it, but you can mitigate it. If organizationally, IT project management is how you typically run projects, you could look at using an outside contractor, or potentially using the vendor, in this case, Lean Logistics as the project manager to help cover some of those responsibilities. I think taking advantage of off-the-shelf integration points is also key. If you can focus the IT resources less on the project management side and more so on the task of providing the technical connectivity between systems, that's another way to kind of mitigate the involvement of IT. You'll never get away from having to involve them simply because maintaining your systems integration is absolutely key. So, how do you sell it, I guess, is organization have to sell it as this is a project that can return ROI, and then once you get past the substantiation of the ROI, how do you mitigate the involvement of IT resources to make sure that you're not, I guess, absorbing too many folks out of large IT organizations probably focused on other projects. It's really just, I guess, from my perspective, a mitigation effort.
Okay. Jason, do you want to go ahead and close that question up?
Sure. I think to echo some of what points John made, I think first and foremost it's planning. It's upfront letting the business plan adequately the requirements that are going to go into the integration or IT requirements. The more you allow your business group to drive what the business requirements are, obviously you're going to reduce the amount of involvement on the back end on their part. I think secondly is to reiterate the return on investment. In the prioritization of projects nowadays, with the competing resources we alluded to earlier, it's difficult to get traction with IT resources if a project doesn't provide an ROI. So being able to have the planning up front to know your requirements that drive the IT involvement, and then having the ROI which can prioritize that IT involvement, I think that's one of the key ways to focus on properly vetting and prioritizing that within an organization to get sponsorship for a project.
Okay. Well, I wanted to thank everyone again today. If we did not get to your question, we will respond directly to you. And thank you again to our panelists for their insights and expertise. I'd also like to thank everyone who attended this webinar today. An on-demand version of this webinar will be available shortly after this broadcast. This webinar, along with other thought leadership webinars, are available at leanlogistics.com underneath the resources section. You can look for our next webinar coming up on December 18th, where we'll be talking again how Lean Logistics is building better supply chains together. Again, thank you for your time, and we hope to see you on future webinars.